Clay Travis, OutKick the show. Tom Homan, you are maybe the hardest working man in this entire administration, which is saying something. You've been on the radio show Clay and Buck several times. We're coming up on 100 days. How would you assess 100 days of the work you've been able to do for Donald Trump compared to what things look like before you were able to start?
We're kicking ass. I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, in 7 weeks, we got border crossings down over 90%. And right now, as today, we're down 96%. So based on the data, real data, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation today, which is a huge success. And other than just the numbers being down 96%, there's two other metrics I look at on the border that are extraordinary. Under Joe Biden, we averaged 1,800 gotaways a day, 1,800 known gotaways, people we know cross the border, but got away because the Border Patrol's too busy changing diapers, making baby formula, and so forth. We went from 1,800 a day to less than 40. 40, 42 many.
Yeah.
We'll get them too. But and the other number is of those that we apprehend every day. Under Joe Biden, we got over 11,000 a day. Today's number was 178. 11,000 to 178. The third metric I look at is how many people got released from the border, because President Trump ended catch and release, right? So from inauguration day to April 1st, last year, January 20th, April 1st, last year under Biden, they released 184,000 people, illegal aliens into the United States. Same time period under Trump, 9. 4 of them were material witnesses we needed for criminal trial. 4 was extremely urgent medical needs that we couldn't remove. Got to take care of the medical needs right away. And 1 was for a humanitarian reason. I think it was some sort of organ transplant for a dying child. 184,000 to 9. So we got the most secure border in the history of this nation right now.
Okay, so the border is secure. Is one of the biggest lies we were ever told that Congress had to act to secure the border?
President Trump did in 7 weeks what Joe Biden couldn't and wasn't doing 4 years. Like the president said, you just need a new president, right? So we already secured the border at record levels during Trump 45. And we knew what we needed to do to get it back. Plus, we're taking additional steps in addition to what we did before. Again, he achieved the most secure border in 7 weeks. But now it's a record achievement because we're even securing it at a higher level now. President was able to do this because of his out-of-box thinking, right? Whether it's Remain in Mexico program, third safe country agreements, ending country release, plus the consequences. People now know if you come to our border, you're not being released in the United States to go hide out. So you can't have strong border security if you don't have strong interior enforcement and consequences. So all this plays into a great success.
How many people do you think are illegally in the country right now?
20 million.
20 million. If there are 20 million, two-part build on that. Do you think some people are now self-deporting because they're aware that there are consequences for being here illegally? Do you think that's a real thing that's happening?
Yes.
You do. How significant do you think?
Look at CBP One app. I think if I remember correctly, we're over 5,000 already. A lot of people are just self-deporting without going through the CBP home app. The intelligence report showing caravans heading south. The Darien Gap, which basically hundreds of thousands of people go north, now people are going south.
Oh, wow.
It's not shut down.
Yeah,
Traffic's going south.
Yeah.
People realize that there's no free ride anymore. You're not going to be arrested at the border and released. You're going to be either immediately returned, you're going to be detained until we return you. You're not walking away from the border.
Okay, so if some people are starting to self-deport, obviously much of the media attention has been on the intentional deportations that are occurring inside of the country. And it seems to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, we had a policy where Joe Biden lets 10 million plus illegals in. You said you think there's roughly 20 million illegals in the country. At best case scenario rates right now, it would appear that we're deporting around 350,000 people on average a year. It seems like they have set up a policy where as many people illegally basically as possible can come in, and then they're trying to restrict clearly the ability to send those people back out by throwing everything in front, legal obstacles, everything else. Is that an accurate assessment?
Absolutely.
Big picture.
Absolutely is. What they did, they played the long-term plan, right? They're playing the long game. And they're pretty smart about it. You bring 10.5 million people into the country. You release the vast majority into the country. And not in ICE detention, because they were placed in ICE detention at $127 a night for a bed. They get a hearing within 35 days.
Yeah.
We know 9 out of 10 do not qualify for asylum. They get immediately removed. And 9 out of 10, that's the immigration court data from 10 years. So let's not put them in ICE detention because they'll get a hearing within 35 days and go home. Let's release them and put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, give them 3 meals a day, give them free medical care, give them work authorization within 90, 120 days. Exactly why they came here, not because of asylum, but to get a better life. I can understand that. Purposely overwhelm the system. So they backed the immigration court up on purpose. So now it's going to take 3, 5, 7 years. If you go through all the appeal process, it could be as high as 9, like courts in New York City. They knew if they overwhelmed the system, these people couldn't be returned right away. And maybe by the time that 5 years rolls around, 7 years rolls around, they have a Democratic administration, all of a sudden, boom, amnesty across the board.
Yes.
So their long game is that's what they intend to do. It's not by accident, isn't incompetence, isn't, it's mismanagement. This is by design. So what we're doing now, we're trying to move people as quick as possible. But now you got radical judges and district court. You got a district court judge issues a national injunction.
Yes.
District. That's the word district, right? So that's why we're taking this to the Supreme Court. District court judge shouldn't put a nationwide injunction outside of his district. They're flowing between sanctuary cities, judges, radical judges, and the NGOs and people like AOC says she's going to educate people as to the constitutional rights. Don't open the door for ICE. Don't talk to ICE. You and I both know her end game is evading law enforcement. That's about to change real fast. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but in the next 2 weeks, you're going to see we're no longer going to accept that. You're going to open the door. Oh, we're going to prosecute you. We're done. So with all these things working against us, we still got we arrested 3 times more criminal aliens than Joe Biden did in an entire year. We're accomplished that in 2 months. So ICE is rocking and rolling, but we could do a lot more if we didn't have these radical judges putting a nationwide injunction on us.
You are constantly having to answer the accusation that you're raiding schools, that you're raiding churches, that you're going after kids. It's not true. But what do you want people to hear directly from you on that accusation?
Sensitive location policy said ICE couldn't make arrests in sensitive locations, churches, schools, hospitals, daycare centers, and all this other stuff. We were the only federal law enforcement agency in the nation who had such a policy. FBI don't have that policy. DEA don't have that policy. ATF don't have that policy. So we did away with the policy because we're sending a clear message. Significant public safety threats or national security threats have no sanctuary. For instance, if we got an MS-13 member who's a senior in high school, and we're looking for him, we can't find him, but now we got information. He's sitting in a classroom right now, significant public safety threat. We're going to that school with local authorities. We're going to place him under arrest. We're not going to sweep the school. We're not going to ask every student at school their nationality. Same thing with churches. We know there's a national security connected with terrorism, and he's attending mass. We're going to go to the church. We're going to arrest him. No, we'll probably arrest him on his way out. We'll send somebody and watch, make sure he leaves. But there's no sanctuary for criminals and national security threats, and that's what the policy is about. You're not going to see a school being swept or a church being swept or any of that stuff. It's just garbage. But the left media puts that out and putting fear in the immigrant community to turn the tide against us, right? I promised from day one we're going to be transparent with the American people. We can't lose the faith and the support of the American people. But the left's working real hard to send misinformation out so people say, okay, maybe ICE is a radical group. I read last night, the ICE is being compared to the Nazis, for God's sakes. And you look at what they're doing, they're concentrating public safety threats and national security threats, and the data clearly shows it. Every public safety threat we arrest and deport, this country's that much safer.
When you see Democrats flying to El Salvador to make, in theory, the focal point of your deportation policy, a alleged wife beater, a guy who was clearly adjudicated to be here illegally, evidence a massive amount that he is an MS-13 gang member, and evidence out of Tennessee that he may well have been engaged in human trafficking because he was driving a human trafficker's car, and all the people that were in that vehicle were let go by Joe Biden's FBI. Are you sometimes in disbelief that this is the guy they decide that they need to go to war to defend?
Actually, I am. I mean, I knew, I've said it on numerous radio shows, after President Trump won and we're waiting to come back in, I said, day one, they're going to vilify the men and women of ICE. They're going to vilify the men and women of the Border Patrol and everybody in this administration who's going to enforce immigration law. I called from day one. But I said they're going to capture a video of first woman or child crying and play it on a reel over and over again.
Yeah.
I never thought for a moment they're going to support an MS-13 gang member designated terrorist that we removed to his homeland. He's home.
Yeah.
And we did the right thing. And but I find it, I'm shocked every day that more want to go down there and hug him. Just it's ridiculous. And while Van Halen went down there, the day before he went to El Salvador, there was an illegal alien that was charged with murder, released from custody. They ignored the ICE detainer and released him to the street, and we took custody back from him. Rachel Morin was murdered in Maryland. How come he's not beat with angel moms and dads? I mean, he ought to be fixed in sanctuary status of that state rather than going and hugging on MS-13 terrorists. I find it shocking, but I hope they keep doing it.
How many hours a day are you working right now?
I don't know. I work.
How many hours do you sleep?
When I leave, I can tell you this. Since January 20th, I think I've had total days off without working, 4. I mean, even when I'm home, I'm on my computer working. My security detail, I got the best security detail that exists. And these guys, they're awesome. And there are a lot of death threats against me and my family. And I'm working these guys to death. I mean, they're working 7 days a week. And it's a tough job, but, it's just what we're doing is historic. When I retire for the 3rd time, I'm going to say, okay, I'm done now.
What are you going to do when you retire?
I'll probably keep raising hell if the Democrat administration comes and tries to undo everything we did. I'm hoping Congress fix that. Congress can change a few laws to make this permanent. So every 4 years, we don't have to worry about another president coming in and undoing it all.
Joe Biden accused early in his administration, compared Border Patrol agents to slave masters, said they were whipping them with their horse reins. And never really apologized for that, even when the evidence came out. I know that angered you, and it should, and it angered many Americans. What's morale like for the people who work at ICE now compared to when Joe Biden was in office?
Well, I take it personally because I wore that uniform. I started in Border Patrol in 1984, and I wore that uniform probably years of my life. It angered me because the men and women in Border Patrol, I always say this, 3 o'clock this morning, you're not going to be sleeping. And Border Patrol agents are going to be standing on dirt trail because the sentry got activated. Someone's walking up a dirt trail in the middle of nowhere. They don't know if it's just an illegal alien looking for a better life or is this a heavily armed drug smuggler. They don't know. They're going to stand there and take it on. They're brave men and women. And under Joe Biden, I think there's over 44 suicides. Highest level number of suicides percentage-wise than any law enforcement agency in the country. I'm not saying the out-of-control border pushed them to do that, but whatever internal struggles they were having, giving CPR to babies, talking to young girls that were raped multiple times, the dead bodies they find, it had a way out. But the morale was in the toilet. Border Patrol and ICE, people were retiring early or just plain quitting. We couldn't get the recruiting numbers. Right now, the morale is all-time high in the Border Patrol. They have more numbers in the recruiting division now waiting to get hired than any time in the history of the United States Border Patrol. They see what President Trump's doing. They want to be a part of this historic effort to have the most secure border in the nation's history. Because now they can uphold the oath they took. Now they can enforce law and actually be federal law enforcement officers rather than Uber drivers. So, and ICE the same way. It's sky high. They get to do the job they signed up for.
From here, you are going to take a 9-year-old Make-A-Wish kid where? And with everything that you've got going on right now, why is it important to take the time to do that?
Because I'm a father, and my worst nightmare is to bury my child. I've held many dying children throughout my career on the border. I've found many dead children, and every child, I see the face of God in every child I've ever met. I don't care who that child is. So I was asked by a Capitol police officer who's friends with his family, is there any way we can get him into White House and just to look at the resolute deaths, just see where the ball sits. I'm doing it. I think it's the right thing to do. And as a father, I just, God bless the family. It's any parent's worst nightmare. So I'll do whatever I can to bring a smile to his face. But it's just a sad story all the way around.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Clay.
Thanks a lot. It's good to see you.